Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great time here at FMX. I'm really excited to be here with you and share the work that we did in Gladiator II. I'm going to introduce a little bit of myself. I am from Colombia, and I did my studies in France, in ESMA. I don't know if you know that school. And then I have been working in the industry for about 10 years, and 10 years with Katana. Okay, so to start, I'm gonna show you a quick reel about of the visual effects that we did in the movie. There is work from ILM and other studios. There is, for example, the work of the rhinos and baboons done by Framestore. I hope you have all seen the movie, and if not, I hope there is not too many spoilers. Okay, so in this talk, I'm going to concentrate in the lighting part of the process and how Katana, this amazing tool, helped us and made our lives so much easier working in these big scale movies. These are the main subjects that I'm gonna talk about. First, I'm gonna give you an introduction of the set locations and the shooting. Then I'm gonna talk about the different sets that we built in ILM. Then I'm gonna talk about lighting in Katana, what we're here for. And then we're gonna have some time for some questions. So to start with the locations, here you can see the two main sets. On the left, you can see the set that they built in Malta in Ricasoli. And in the bottom here, you can see that they actually built, it's a partially built Coliseum. That, of course, this was a fantastic base for the shooting and also for the visual effects and lighting. On the right, you can see the set for the Battle of Numidia and all the sequences in Numidia, actually. This set was the set of Kingdom of Heaven that was left standing there after they completed the movie. And Ridley Scott adapted it for this movie. Adapted it is mainly the walls of Numidia. In here in the set, you can also see that we have two partially built Roman boats that were mounted in these industrial engines to be able to move them and stage the actions quite accurately. Now I'm going to talk about the CG sets that we built from these locations that I just showed. So first, I'm going to talk about Rome. The team built dozens of buildings with hundreds of variations, different vegetation types, crowds, hundreds of props, and all of this to make the city feel alive. To achieve this, we took as reference this 1930s model from the Museum of Roman Civilization to get an accurate and faithful layout of the city. So here you can start seeing like what we were imagining at the beginning, like how are we going to build all of this amount of geometry, and also for us in lighting, how are we going to get it in one scene? And it's not only one shot; it's a lot of shots. So that was the challenge in this set. Now I'm going to talk about the Coliseum. That, of course, it was part of the set in Rome, but we treated it as a separate set because a lot of sequences happened in the arena. We had amazing drawings from the director and, of course, the interpretation of the art department. And this was the biggest reference for us in our lighting and look of the Coliseum. From all the sequences that happened in the arena, definitely the most challenging one was and rewarding one was the naval battle. This was such a fun sequence. When I first saw this, I was thinking it's impossible that the Romans really flooded the Colosseum, but actually they would do this to entertain the crowds. Some fun facts of the sequence. In average per shot, we fill the Colosseum with 14 million liters of water. And the Coliseum fully filled had 34,000 crowd agents, more or less. Here we also had practical boats that were same as in Numidia, that were mounted in these industrial engines, and the staging of the actions was quite accurate. So this helped us in our work tremendously because we could keep a lot of the plates. For our third and last set that I'm going to talk about is Numidia, where, of course, we needed a completely digital Mediterranean ocean to make the illusion that this happened in open ocean and not in the desert, like the plates. Ridley Scott really likes to have the action happening at once and have multiple cameras shooting all the shots at the same time. So this makes practically impossible to use green screens. So there was, as you can see in this shot, there was a crowd, a stage crowd hidden everywhere in the set. So for Roto, actually, it was a painful show. But this is how Ridley Scott films his movies in record time. If I remember correctly, it was like 50 something days that he filmed this movie. So we had full CG shots with up to, I think the shot that had the most boats was about 90 boats. And then we had shots like this one, where we were partially replacing the boats, because, as I said before, we always wanted to keep as much as possible from the blades. Of course, we had like sail simulations, explosions, smokes, arrows going back and forth, a lot of CG blood. All of this combined to have this lethal and chaotic atmosphere of the battle. We had practical and CG boats filled with hundreds of crowds. And we had to match them quite closely because, as you saw, in this shot we were keeping the performance of the crowds on set, so we had to match them quite closely. As you can see in this third set, we had similar challenges in all the sets. A lot of geometry, detailed geometry, water simulations, different assets. So they were quite complex and big scenes. So this is where Katana comes to play to make our life much easier with such heavy scenes. And then with a huge amount of shots, with a relatively small crew of lighters. I think we had 750 shots, and this was done by 10 lighters and 2 leads. In lighting, it's only we push the button and that's it. We make beautiful images. This is way far from reality, of course. But I have to say that Katana does make our life much easier. So day to day, you have to work on your shots, do a lot of iterations, show daily progress in your shots. And nowadays, you have to speed up the process because, of course, tools like Katana allows us to do this. But that makes us take our shots to really good level, like in this movie. One of the biggest advantages of Katana is the deferred system of loading. You only load the assets that you need to work with. So, for example, here you can see this is the scene graph, and you can see in this shot, for example, we had all of these assets. That is quite a lot. But probably to place your lights, you don't need all of the boats that are here. I don't know, probably 20 boats. You probably only need this boat to be able to place the lights and maybe the walls. And you can decide to only load that boat, and also you can decide, okay, I'm only gonna load the proxy of that boat, because it would be quite impossible to work with this amount of geometry in the viewer to place lights. I also want to mention that we work with different kind of assets. Like in here, you have volumes for the smokes and for all the atmospherics, instance arrays for the crowds and the props. You also have point clouds for the interactive of the fires, alembic caches for the actually the ocean, the boats. And also I want to mention that we use USD for the sets. This was newly implemented in our pipeline, and this was actually quite challenging in a big production like this. But it brought its benefits. That was compatibility between softwares and departments. And also this allow us to have layered workflows, avoiding losing data from the main set. So I have to say that have this show as the first one. It was my first show using USD. Was quite challenging. A lot of trial and error, a lot of learning between departments was done, but hopefully we got it in a good place, and is what you see in the screen. So the visual effects approach was heavily based in these amazing plates, and we use them to anchor as much our images to reality, to be able to expand the sets, the stunts, the special effects works, and like this achieve the epic scale that the director was after. We had types of shots like this one that you see. This is actually the Katana monitor, and is really easy to bring your back plates to have all the layers that you can swap in between, layer them on top, over them. And then I wanna talk about the picker, the 2D picker, because in Katana it has a really nice feature. That is, you can, in your render image, you can pick any asset, and it will bring you in your scene graph in 3D to the asset that you picked. And actually, with complex scenes like this is really, really useful because sometimes it's faster to render your image. Pick, I don't know, there is a broken asset. You pick your broken asset, and it will bring you straight to that part of the asset instead of going through the whole hierarchy that you saw that with all of those assets that we had, and inside like all the hierarchy that will take you so much time. And now this is of course the main place where our lighting happens, and that is the gaffer. And everything is gathered in this node. All your lights or your like filters, your gobos, your blockers, is all in this place. And having it in one node enable us like to dive deeper in our lighting sequences. It's much easier. So in here, I'm gonna show like how we work with these big scenes and the different angles and the shots per angle. So we have a main light rig, and this is gonna feed your whole scene. Then you have in this show we separated the shots but by angles. So for example, here I'm gonna say, okay, for this angle I'm gonna have everything backlit, because backlit everything looks good, right? That's the secret of lighting. So here I'm gonna do the edit for that angle. So the main library already fed all the shots, and then for this angle we're gonna have these edits. Yeah, you're gonna do your edits that are gonna feed all the shots. But then, of course, you can also go to your shot and say, maybe here I want to have the key a little bit higher, or change a little bit the key. So it allows you to not do like repetitive tasks all over and over between shots. It like saves you a lot of time to have this kind of workflows. Now that we're talking about the lighting, I'm gonna go into the lighting of the Coliseum and New Media to show our approach, what we used, what we did. Actually, this shot is a replica from one of the shots in the first Gladiator. Of course, we were always referencing the first movie for the look and everything. That's, of course, what the director wanted. In the Coliseum, I say for the lighting, the most important thing was the velarium. These drapes that you have here, casting shadows. So that was our main asset. As you can see here, the set that they built in Fort Ricasoli only had the two first set of seats. And of course, the velarium was quite low. So we had to art direct the shadows quite a lot to be able to match it to the plate, but also to match it to our CG, where the velarium was much higher. Of course, the use of the velarium gave us these strips of light and gave us variation in our lighting, maintaining, of course, this contrasty look from the first movie. In addition, we also use volumes to really emphasize these strips of lights coming down. And of course, this helped with this dusty look that we wanted for the Coliseum. We also had animated caustics because we wanted to art direct them, and also because we wanted to put them on top of the plate elements, like here, the boats and a part of the set. In here, we render complex, of course, water simulations. And it was challenging the shading of the water because we wanted to keep the murky look, but also we wanted to be able to see the shark, these menacing sharks that were in the water. Now I'm gonna talk about the lighting in Numidia. Having plates shot in the desert and convert them to the open ocean was really tricky, actually. But we always tried to keep as much as possible from the plates. In the desert, of course, there is quite a lot of bounce because it's the sand. So this was quite challenging to try to keep as much as possible from the plates. Also, our main challenge in this sequence was the sky replacements. As you can see, when they shot the movie, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And of course, to have this stormy look that the director was after, then we had to replace the sky. But we always wanted to keep the romance coming from the storm, the darkness, and then Numidia in the light where the sun is, because they are the good ones. So yeah, definitely that was our approach. The look development of the water was definitely the most challenging thing, I say, in this project. In Numidia, our amazing look dev artist, Charlotte, did an extensive work on the water to be able to first translate all the attributes that are coming from effects, from other softwares and from other render engines, to Katana and Renderman, that is what we use in ILM. And second, of course, to make it as realistic as possible. Of course, we were always constantly looking at a real reference of water. For the water, we had like a big geometry for the ocean, but then we had really, really detailed geometry for the wakes around the boats. In addition to this, we had volumes for the white water that you see around the wakes. Now I want to talk about how Katana is really good with team collaboration, as you have been seeing, but I want to highlight these three things from Katana, and is the node-based templates, the macros, and the live groups. So building scenes in a node basis graph makes it a lot easier to reuse templates between artists and sequences. This allows more consistency, and it makes easy the setups like multi-shots. This allows us to work in hundreds of shots. I say this scene has probably about 50 shots. We had scenes with between 20 and 50 shots, more or less. And of course, the important thing of the templates of Katana are the variables that control like what path the scene takes and what contributes to where you're viewing your template from or where you're rendering from. Here on the right, you can see our multi-shot tab where you have all your shots. Then you should choose your shot. And in the template, you can see what is contributing. And that's how these allow us to have these many shots and reuse nodes and make it possible to work in these kind of productions. Here I'm going a little bit into the template. So at the top, you have your importomatics where you bring all of your assets. Then on other geometry that you can bring, then probably some material assignments. Then you have your lighting and all of this is feeding your whole scenes, all your 50 shots. Then, as you saw, you have your key angles with its own shots. And then you set what each pass is going to have. what is going to contribute to each pass with variables. And these were kind of all of the passes that we used. This is the template of NuMedia, so we used all of these passes. Of course, not all of the passes in every shot. Now I'm going to talk about the macros. So in Katana, it's really easy for everyone, from junior to senior to lead, to create these tools. That is, it can be a node or a group of nodes that can be reused later. It's really easy to bring them when you save them, so they are at hand to reuse later. You can customize these groups, as you can see here. So this node, for example, has like a macro has only one node, and you have different expressions saying, in this case, is the variations of the sales. So you have all of that, but for the artists to work, they don't need to see all of this. This was made by the look dev department, so we could art direct every sale in every shot. So then now here you can see the lighting artist just has to drag the boat that they want to change the sail on, and then you have the different types of sails, and then maybe some color variations. But this allows to simplify the UI so the artist can focus on the artistic part of the work. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite tool, actually, from Katana, that is the live groups. I really like it because it enables constant sharing of setups, reduces repetitive tasks. For me as a lead, it's quite important to be able to update constantly the setups because, of course, assets are changing constantly in production. For example, in here, the setup to render the water evolved so much that if you would be sending your scenes all the time to other artists, that would be just a pain. This allows you to, okay, I do my changes. Also, everyone can contribute to this. Doesn't have to be only the lead. And then with one click, then all of the scenes are updated. Or, for example, someone spots something wrong, a broken asset. That person solves it, and then it's solved for the whole team. So it's quite efficient because of this. Here, I'm going to show, this is an example of a live group that we did also for NuMedia. So, for example, some global settings that we were doing for the sequence, and as you can see, we have variables here. So, for example, we want this setting for these kind of shots, but not for other ones. So you can really pick and choose share setups. This is also like, okay, we were adding some geometries for certain sequences. Optimizations also. This means one person does optimization for one angle and then everyone has it. So yeah, this is also quite good from Katana. To finish, I want to show you a picture of the lighting team in ILM. This is the whole lighting team. It's not only the team for Gladiator 2. Of course, without these talented people, we wouldn't be able to do this amazing work. And everything went so smoothly, of course, thanks to that. I want to thank Daniel Rojas, Charlotte, and Guillaume Lenoel in special, who helped me put this presentation together. And really special thanks to our supervisors in London, Dan Snape and Pietro Ponti. And that is it. Now we have some time for some questions.